Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a really powerful concept in the cloud world called policy as code. Just think of it like this. It's a digital building inspector for your entire online setup, automatically checking every single blueprint before anything ever gets built. So, let's dive right in. This is the question that keeps IT folks up at night, right? Just one simple misconfiguration, one accidental click in some super complex cloud menu, and bam! All of a sudden, your company's sensitive data is just out there, open to the public internet. It's a very real and, honestly, a very common fear. So why is this so easy to get wrong? Well, it's because most companies today live in what you could call a multi-cloud maze. They're using services from Amazon and Microsoft and Google, and trying to keep all your security rules straight and consistent across every single one of them, it's a huge, incredibly error-prone challenge. And really, here's the heart of the problem. Each cloud provider has its own unique way of doing things. The way you write a security rule in Google Cloud is completely different from how you do it in Azure. It's kind of like trying to get 3 different architects who all speak different languages to build one single secure building together. It's just a recipe for confusion, and worse, some really dangerous security gaps. Okay, so how do we fix this mess? We need a universal blueprint, right? A single building code that everybody understands. And that is exactly what policy as code is all about. So let's get a clear definition on the table. Policy as code, or PAC, is basically the practice of writing all your security and operational rules down in a code file. So instead of clicking through a bunch of menus, you define your policies in a simple text file that can be versioned, reviewed, and automated, just like any other piece of software. Honestly, this is the best way to think about it. Before anyone builds a skyscraper, they have to follow these really strict building codes for fire safety, for wiring, for structural integrity. Policy as code sets up those exact same kinds of automatic, non-negotiable safety rules for your digital world, making sure nothing unsafe ever gets built in the first place. Okay, that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's take one supercritical security rule and see how you'd handle it across 3 different clouds. Our goal here is simple, but it's also absolutely vital. No matter what, nobody should be able to create a storage bucket, you can just think of that as a folder in the cloud, that's publicly accessible to the entire internet. This right here is one of the most common causes of massive data breaches. All right, now this is where it all clicks. Look at the top 2 rows. To enforce our one simple rule, no public storage, Google Cloud has its own specific command. Then Azure uses a totally different structure and language to do the exact same thing. You'd have to be an expert in both. Now look at that bottom row. That's a tool called Open Policy Agent. It's clean, it's simple, and it's universal. You write the rule once, in one clear language, and it can work for both of them. And this brings us to the big comparison. The old way, using these native policies, means you have to be an expert in every single cloud's weird syntax. It makes checking your security a total nightmare. The universal approach, though, you define your rules once, in one language, and then apply them everywhere. It is an absolute game changer for consistency and just making things simple. So what does this universal approach really get us? Well, it lets us build what we call universal guardrails. We're creating a single source of truth for our security that protects the whole organization, no matter which cloud our developers happen to be using that day. And the tool that really makes all this magic happen is a super popular open source project called Open Policy Agent, or OPA for short. It's basically become a universal translator for policy. It provides that common language we just saw, and it's becoming the standard for a lot of companies. And the way it works is actually pretty straightforward. It's just 3 steps. First, you define your policy, like no public buckets, in OPA's language. Then, automation tools translate and apply that rule to the specific controls inside GCP, Azure, wherever. And finally, and this is the most important part, it's enforced. It blocks any attempt to create something that violates the rule before it can even happen. So, why does all this matter so much? What's the big deal? Well, it means you get consistent security everywhere without needing an army of experts. It drastically cuts down on human error by making the enforcement automatic. Audits become incredibly simple because you only have one set of rules to check. And you know what? It actually empowers your developers to move faster because they know these guardrails are always there to keep them safe. So this isn't just some neat technical trick. It's a huge shift in how we think about security. The future of the cloud is one where safety is automated, it's built in from the start, and it's pretty much invisible. This quote just perfectly captures the whole idea here. Policy as code isn't about cleaning up messes. It's about designing your systems so that entire categories of mistakes are literally impossible from the very beginning. It's all about being proactive and preventative. So, we'll leave you with this thought. This technology gives you the power to write the fundamental laws of your digital world, to define what's allowed and what isn't. So the only real question left is, what are you going to protect first? Thanks so much for joining me.